Orlando Pirates beat College by 1-0, with Siema scoring the winning goal. How exactly did the Buccaneers manage to get this win? Well, as it happens, that's exactly what we're going to talk about in this video. Hello and welcome to the Cutback with Mpilo. In this channel, we do match analysis, deep dive, analytical stuff. So if you're interested in that type of thing for South African football, do make sure to subscribe. So let's look at how Orlando Pirates were trying to attack, and the story is the same really. Teams have found a way of stopping midfield progression. So as you can see here, Nduli is pressed. When he passes the ball to Mariko, he's also pressed. So basically it made their pivots unable to play. Whenever they were about to get the ball, there is an Orbit College player who's right there to press them and get the ball back. And it's also important to note, it did not necessarily have to be one player, just like you saw in that clip. It could be two players coming and converging on him and making sure that they don't play the ball. And what Pirates were doing, they were playing the ball wide because they had no options to go through centrally. And this led to Tito Maswanganyi taking responsibility, dropping from the 10 position into being like an 8, basically, to come and collect the ball deeper. And then he would try to progress. But by the time Shandu gets the ball and is in an area where he can make a difference, Orbit College have basically recovered. They've blocked any progression up front. So any pass to Mabasa was just never going to happen. And centrally as well, they had a lot of energy. As you can see, they're in blue. They would be back and they would have recovered to come in and get the ball. And the other issue that Pirates had is the fact that once Tito drops to come and collect the ball, right, his option is to play to Shandu. But the moment Shandu gets the ball, instead of Mariko shifting across the pitch to kind of come and combine with Ushandu and make for easy passes, he maintains his stance, right, where he's playing. And as a result, that would mean by the time Shandu drives with the ball across to Mariko, that has given Orbit College enough time to recover. And now there's no way that they can pass the ball through. And also, since they've moved and shifted across, that means Hoto, who is very good when it comes to the space in front of him, the ball is switched from one side to the other. Then there's no space to attack because basically players have moved up with Shandu or Tito, whoever was trying to progress the ball as they moved across the pitch. So then Mbule and Bata came on. And the first thing you see when they come on is that actually they were still as pressed as much as the previous guys were. So the only issue now, or the only thing that Pirates needed to do, was to try and make sure that they maintain their depth. By their depth is their numbers in midfield, so that they can allow the fullbacks to have space out wide. So you would see China going wide early on. But another thing that these two brought, specifically Mbule, is that in positions like this, he's able to just keep the ball and then play even the safest passes. By the way, you just saw Sipombule playing a back pass. That's not evil, because there are some people who will have you believe that a player who plays back passes is evil or does not know football. There is no need to force forward passes if they are not there. And that's exactly what you are seeing here. I just had to pause and say that because people think that in football you always have to play forward passes. You don't. And that's exactly what Mbule was trying to do here. Help the team keep the ball. So we move. So the other thing that you would see with Mbule is, I was still going to go back and come back to this later on. When pressed, he's not shaken. By the way, that's another back pass. And then what would happen is that with him being able to keep the ball, now he's basically by one pass taken the 3 people who were marking him, and then now Pirates can attack. Once again, here's the ball here. He sees that there's no forward pass. He can turn and pass the ball back. Another back pass by Mbule, and nothing wrong with that. Here again, he's much more mobile than Mariko. As I said, he wasn't moving much. And you see Mbule overlapping and underlapping, rather, getting into those spaces. Again, there's no forward pass. He plays the ball back. Nothing wrong with that. So another thing, as I said, since he's pressed in midfield, that means now there's 4 people who are trying to be hyper-aggressive on Orlando Pirates, as you will see in this clip. Like, not here. So you see, there's 4 Orbit College players who are hyper-aggressive pressing Pirates. But since TLP is very comfortable on the ball, that means all he needs to do is just subtract one player, and all of a sudden they've removed four players, and now TLP has a lot of players that he can find going forward. One on the right, Ushandu, who is free and is unmarked by anyone. So that was just a thing. And the secondary thing is that with him, with Orbit pressing up high, that leaves gaps in their midfield, and then Pirates can be able to play those line splitting, defense splitting passes, and then be able to be on their way in attack. Another thing you say about Tumbule, once again, he gets the ball, he can turn, and then the nice thing also is that Undaba was much, I think Uhoto is feeling the pressure, but when Daba came on, he looked like he was in less pressure to do what Hoto was doing, because Hoto, his form, he loses the ball at times, and then fans don't like that, and they let him know about it as well, which I don't think is a good thing, but he feels it as much as there's an experienced player. But Pirates fans have long hated Hoto. Like, I see on comments, the first thing, even if Pirates won from last season, Hoto is costing us. But his work rate in that position has been second to none. Just had to say that in passing. So then you'll have Undaba progressing the ball. But the other thing that Pirates did, even from the first half, is playing the ball wide. And we already know this about how they like to play diagonals. Since their pivots would be marked, their first thought, like here, is not to play from the back, because you can see that Orbits are trying to press. There are 3 men outside the box. 2 are going to be pressing the center backs if the ball goes to them, and then the other one will just leave the other pivot and press China. So they just went long, but then this was not really fruitful in the first half. And then they tried to play wide and play long balls early on, but it didn't work. But second half, Orbit seemed to be tiring a bit. So that is why China would be in situations like this and would play the ball wide to Shandu, and Shandu would be free. And with defenders of Orbit being aggressive, or Orbit just being aggressive when they were defending, this would mean the midfielders would be sucked out to go and press Ushandu. And that would leave space in midfield. And now whoever is there can now receive the ball and try to play wide. Once again, you see another example. The ball is played wide, they get sucked out wide, and then now there's that whole space in midfield, and then the ball can be played to Umbata, who can now switch the ball and switch the focus of play. Same thing again, the ball is played down the right-hand side, and now Orbits are sucked in, and then Orlando Pirates, they just combine in the side, and they still had an option to play the ball centrally. And again, those diagonals still there being played, but then the keeper of Orbit. The keeper of Orbit, I think we're not talking enough about Moerane. Yeah, he plays for his national team as well. Lesotho, he's like their #1 goalkeeper. So that tells you that he does show that he's actually a national team player, because he doesn't stay in goal at all. He is always ready for those balls over the top. And another thing that Pirates try to do is just overloading sides. Like here, they know that they're going to play the ball in this area. And if you look on the left, you will see that there is already players who are available, like Undaba. So if the ball is played that side, now Pirates are free to just switch the point of play to the left-hand side. There's 3 of them playing this side. They suck this team to the side, Orbit, and then they can switch the ball. And yeah, now you see that there's 2 people free. There's Utito, there's Ushandu. The ball is played across, and then they can attack. Now let's talk about how Pirates defended, because for being honest, I was shocked with how they were defending, specifically their press, because part of me, I will explain, part of me thought, oh, the press is not good because Mabasa is playing. But even when Mahopa played, the press was just bad. Let's look at it. So if you look at how Pirates are pressing, the Moerane is not pressed at all. He's free to just, get in, play, and find the passes that he wants. Over and over again, look at how Mabasa is backing off. He's not going to the keeper to press him. And then he finds a pass. Again, no pressure on the keeper. He takes his time. Look how far from his goal he is. But no one is pressing him. Again, he's there. And they are late to press him. The ball can be played back to him. Since there isn't enough pressure, he can just chip the ball back to his defender. And when Mahopa came on, I was like, okay, we're about to see something different. But instead of him pressing, you see that it was Tito who's leading the press, and Mahopa just stays with the defender, which obviously is limiting his passing lanes, passing options. But at the same time, he's the one who seemed like he can find more dangerous passes. Again, Mahopa not really pressing, and here he runs, but then he realizes I have to stop midfield progression. So this happens sometimes. Coaches will do this whereby they tell their players not to press the keeper if they know that by pressing the keeper you'll be opening up like a passing option for him. So rather stay with the people that he will pass than press him, because if he then finds that pass, then you're already a man short in midfield or wherever in the pitch. So I think this was done on purpose, but it made them less effective, if I'm being honest, because they were still progressing the ball. Like, that is why the ball position in the first half was 50-50. Ball position only became 60-40 to Pirates in the second half. And that has to tell you that Opit was tired, and some of the ground that they had covered in the first half, they did not cover. And the reason why I'm not showing the goal is because the goal came from a set piece, and I tried to see how it fits the way that Pirates were playing. It's just another phase of play, which someday we'll talk about all the phases, because there is defense, there's attack, there's transition, and then there's set pieces. So they did score from a set piece. There are some transitional moments that I decided not to talk about on this video. But as the season continues, if I see how deadly they become in transitions, then we'll talk about them. If you haven't subscribed, do make sure to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. And check out this other video that YouTube thinks you might like. Bye-bye, and I'll see you on the next one.